Welcome to the KBB Review podcast, the show all about the ins and outs and ups and downs of being an independent kitchen and bathroom retailer. I'm Andy Davis, the editor of KBB Review, and the panel and I are actually recording this at 3 o'clock in the morning. Not because we're all avidly following the World Cup, but because we're all wide awake, worrying about that thing that he's doing tomorrow, or that thing we've just remembered that we should have done today, or whether that payment is going to come through, or that customer who said they were going to sign off the job but hasn't will finally confirm, or we've just all had a really good idea and we have to get it down on paper before we forget. Yes, we're talking all about the realities of owning and running your own business and how much it keeps you awake at night. So, what are the concerns? How do you manage them? And how do you stop those worries from affecting all the people around you? So, pacing the floor, we have Steph Warner from Pier 1 Bathrooms in Hove.
Hi, everyone.
Good morning to you. We have Nick Warrington from Stuart J. Warrington in Macclesfield. Hello, Nick.
Hello, good night to everybody.
Good night. We have Liz Pantley-Jones from Lima Kitchens in Milton Keynes. Hello, Liz.
Morning.
Morning. And we've got Trevor Scott from RFK in Rugby. Hello, Trevor.
Yeah, good morning. I've just had to go for a quick wee.
Well, one of many, I'm sure. So, look, thank you all for coming on at such an ungodly hour. Now, you can't see this, listeners, but Steph's hair is in rollers. Liz is clutching a teddy bear. Nick, nice pyjamas. I would never put you down as a fan of Bluey, but Good for you. And Trevor, I don't care how hot it is, for God's sake, put some clothes on. We're going to talk about what keeps you awake at night and about worrying, and it's about the personal toll, I suppose, of running your own business, particularly in this market. So this subject came about after a social post from our old podcast alumni, Justine Bullock from the Tap End. Hello, Justine, if you're listening. She posted at a similarly ungodly hour and listed all the things to do with her business that were swirling around her head and keeping her awake. And some were worries and concerns. Some were just trains of thought that hadn't reached the station yet. Liz, I'm going to start with you. As a fellow business owner, when you read that post, did it all sort of ring true with you? The inability to put work in a box and go back to it tomorrow?
Completely. I mean, there's nothing like falling asleep and remembering everything that you've not done that day or week, which is even worse, or checking in that your staff have completed fully, or just things that never get done as a business owner because there's something more pressing, and then all of a sudden you're at another deadline, which you thought was maybe 6 months away. So yeah, completely understand and regularly get that 3 a.m. influx of thoughts.
Nick, what is it that metaphorically or literally keeps you awake at night when it comes to your business? What are your biggest worries? What goes round around your head?
I think for me, it's not worry about things happening, it's things not happening, if that makes any sense at all. And it's just, I have all these ideas and plans that I want to implement, and I've only got so many hours in the day. So most of my thinking and getting angsty about stuff revolves around all these things that I want to do that I've not yet done, and I'm conscious of that, and they're usually sort of longer term things to move the business forward, and everybody else within the business is obviously looking at their day to day, so that falls on me, and that's the sort of stuff that preoccupies me. So the long term project work for the business.
Yeah, your brain's always whirring.
Yeah.
What about you, Trevor? Are you a worrier?
No, I mean, historically, I've always been a glass half full rather than half empty kind of a person. But, certainly the last 4 or 5 years of life in general, and this industry specifically, because it's the one we're involved in, have brought a lot of stresses and worries into my life that didn't exist pre-2019. One of the major ones today or tomorrow, last week, is meeting the wage bill. I've got 14 people that work for the company, and even though I'm divorced from it in the sense that I'm living 120 mile away, theoretically semi-retired, it's the thing that wakes me up in the middle of the night after I've had the sales figures through for the previous week, is can we meet the wage bill? That is never going to go away as a stress until the market changes dramatically.
Steph, what about you? Are you a worrier or are you a planner? Which side of that fence do you sit on?
I am, unfortunately, a bit of a worrier. I've learned to take a notepad to bed now because I often have those ideas in the night and you're like, oh, I need to not forget that. Actually, what you've just said, Nick, resonates a bit with me. I hadn't thought of it until now, is that I feel like I just do not have enough time to get everything done. And I'm constantly feeling, like I'm sort of underachieving and letting people down kind of, because I'm like, oh, I said I'd do that and I haven't done that. And I've got this big strategy thing that I think could make a difference, but I haven't had time to think about it. That's what sort of ticks over in my mind a lot. And then you've got the more acute episodes of stress and worry, which would be down to cash flow issues usually, or people issues, whether it's customers or staff.
Liz, are you able to switch that voice off? Like, if you were thinking completely practically, there's not a lot you can do about these things at 3 o'clock in the morning. So actually, the best thing you can do is get a good night's sleep. But are you able to sort of logically persuade yourself otherwise, or are you just like the more you think about it, the more awake you are?
I am a lot better than I ever used to be. For years, I've done the notepad, although I email myself because I then leave the notepad next to my bed. With some of the strategies that I've been looking to implement, I have been up just because I've managed to get myself excited and worried at the same time, which is harder to break from. And I've just got techniques that now help me get back to sleep and think logically about a good night's sleep is going to be the best thing for everyone.
But do you listen to yourself, though, if you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, no, completely. And I can spiral massively into more gloom and doom and yeah, get carried away with my own thoughts.
Do you have a notepad, Nick? Do you email yourself? Because there's that old Frank Sinatra song, in the wee small hours of the morning. And I always think of that. It's like, it's literally the most melancholy point of the day to trying to be thinking positively. So what do you do? Do you have the kind of notebook? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I am one of those who listens to all these business self-help books to try and learn strategies. And a couple of things I have tried over the years and really struggled to get any momentum with is journaling. But I have, over the last 6 to 9 months, been not every night, but I am getting more consistent at it. And what I find is if I spend 5 minutes before bed just trying to write down the stuff for tomorrow and make sure that I've got a plan for tomorrow, that generally helps me get a better night's sleep, definitely. I do take a notebook. I have a notebook in the cupboard next to the bed just in case I wake up with something. I don't take my phone to bed. I turn my phone off when I go to bed so that I can't reach for my phone and leave it downstairs. So that's not a distraction. And if I wake during the night, what I now do, much to my wife's annoyance, is I get out of bed with a fiction book and go and sit in the other room and read for 20 minutes and then go back to bed. And then I just go off to sleep, no problem.
Right, so you're actively managing it. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you actively manage it, Steph?
Not very effectively. I try to. I know all the, I've got a good idea of what the strategies are, obviously, from my background. So I do try to implement them, but I am a bit of a catastrophizer, I would say. So I've got strategies, though. I used to suffer quite a lot from insomnia, and that wasn't actually when I worked, had this business. It was back in my psychology days, and so I learned the strategies for getting to sleep then. So I implement them now if I'm worrying about work. So I don't have a problem with sleeplessness, but I do have this constant whir of worry, I would say.
Trevor, how about you? Do you have a notebook? Do you have a plan? Do you work out a way to not make your brain wear, or do you just kind of let it happen?
I mean, I'm probably slightly different to some people, but I'm a late to bedder. I quite often won't retire until at least midnight and sometimes even 12:30, 1 o'clock, just on an average day of the week. And that's because my brain's working then. And then eventually it wears itself out and I fall asleep in my decaf cup of tea and go to bed and wake up at 3 o'clock naturally for reasons that men of a certain age always do. Now it's at that point that I start thinking again, and quite often then what I resort to is pop the earbuds in and listen to a KBB review podcast, because that always makes me fall asleep very quickly.
So, all right, Steph, talk to me about the psychology of this then. Why does your brain think of things when it's not supposed to be thinking of things? When you're distracted or doing the ironing or just trying to go to sleep or whatever it might be, that's when things come into your head. Why does that happen?
From the psychology perspective, there's a lot of research around uncertainty, and this is what it all boils down to, really. Uncertainty is something that's very big in our lives as small business owners. In many respects. And our brain, we all have different levels of tolerance for uncertainty. So some people can actually tolerate it quite a lot and other people cannot tolerate it. There's been a lot of research around that. And our brain actually does perceive, that feeling of uncertainty as a threat. And so you get the whole stress response, you get the cortisol levels and all of that comes with it. And then ultimately the burnout that follows. So a lot of it is around, that uncertainty. And then the worrying that we experience is actually our brain trying to problem solve. So it's not necessarily a negative thing, all that thinking and staying up at night is actually your brain trying to cope with the threat that it's being faced with. It's just a case of trying to separate the worries that are actually quite useful, where you're actually coming up with productive thoughts and plans, and then the bit that's just the catastrophizing not helping you. So I think it's around that. But I think it's just about headspace. When you're lying down, you get that sense of relief at night, and then you're not distracted, and that's when all the thoughts flood in. But it's basically a stress response.
Do you think there's a certain type of person that becomes a business owner? There's some people just want to be an employee and some people want to own their own business. But by starting your own business, you're inviting that stress and worry in, aren't you?
I think so. I mean, I certainly never really had a desire to be a business owner in particular. It just kind of happened to us. And then I think it's whether you thrive on it or not. But I think you don't always have control when you're a business owner, and it like how much tolerance you've got for that. Oh, I can't control everything is going to ultimately impact on how you deal with it. So I'm quite a control freak. I like to know that everything's in hand. And when I don't know that, that's what sparks my worry. I'm sure there's some people that deal with it. Well, I know there's people that deal with it a lot better than others.
So there you go, Liz. I think the common denominator with small business owners is not an ability to cope with stress. It's being a control freak.
That wasn't the one that I thought you were going to go for, but I can't deny it. I do admit it quite a lot. Definitely control freak and good problem solvers. A mind that will continue to find a way around or over or under, as opposed to accepting defeat. So I think that definitely makes a big difference, and it is a common theme between people who are successful.
But do you think, as I say, you're inviting the stress and the worry, though? You have to have a certain tolerance for that to be able to do the job that you're doing, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. You need to have that level of tolerance. And I think one of the things that's funny when you hear some people, a lot of people say they would like to own their own business, but taking that step into the realm of uncertainty and stress is a really different thing. When I started out, though, I thought it was going to be a doddle. We were going to be working 30 hours a week. Nick's raising his hand in agreement. 30 hours a week. And I'd be minted by the time I'd done 20 years into it, possibly retiring, which is far from the case. So I think the reality of owning a small business could be where people either thrive or they don't.
Yeah, I suppose you get to Trev's point of view, don't you? When you're semi-retired and spend half the time in Italy, that's when it's the stress of the worry.
It's so stressful. I just don't know whether to have pizza or pasta.
So look, Nick, I know you're obviously a family business, but do you feel, as the business owner or as the person who's running it, it's quite isolating, isn't it? Do you feel that it's quite a lonely job almost?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I haven't got any business partners. I am the boss. And so although I've got family members working with me, they're employees at the end of the day. So ultimately, it's me making the strategic decisions within the business. Everybody's got their own roles, and that's what, as employees, rightly, you expect them to focus on. And then you are there, metaphorically above that, trying to take an overall view of what's going on, as well as doing all your own stuff. And so you have I think, a completely different take on the business than the people working for you. And I think because of that, you tend to look, you've got to lift your eyes up to the horizon and look further down the path than perhaps your employees are. And so that in itself creates some isolation, because you're thinking about all that, and you might have a bad day and this has happened and that's happened, and you don't want to take it home to the family really, and you don't want to unload it on your employees either. So you do tend to just let it stew in your brain instead, I find, and that's the difficulty. And so you go home and either Well, what I do is either I go home and have a beer, or I go out on my bike, and I try and go out on my bike these days because the beer doesn't help with the sleep. So yeah.
What do you think, Trevor? You've been doing this a long time. Is it quite an isolating job that takes its toll, just being the guy in charge?
Well, absolutely. Something that one of my old bosses said to me a long, long time ago was that you can be trained for every job role in your chosen industry until you become managing director. And then there's nobody ahead of you. And all of a sudden you're on your own. And instead of looking to your peer group, because back in those days there wasn't a peer group, you were absolutely on your own. You had to do it all by your own mental well-being, your mental strength. And you couldn't show signs of weakness either, of course, because then, that sense of fear kicks in with everybody around you. It can impact on the entire business. So definitely one of the things I've tried to do in the last few years since I semi-retired and made Tom up to managing director is to give him the support from above that I never had when I was in his role, if you like. So he is part of a mentoring group which we sponsor and fun for him to go to. And wherever possible, we have conversations that are about his own personal well-being and how well he is coping with the role and what we can do to help improve matters and make the role not necessarily easier, but just more manageable. And in my role, that's one of my stresses now, is making sure that people below me, I always don't want to use the word below me, that's not fair. The people that are actually doing the real work, that they're being supported. And that part of my role is now to make sure those support mechanisms are in place. But I still don't have anybody to lean on, apart from Madam there that's just walked in from walking the dogs.
Well, we'll ask that in a minute. But, Steph, do you think your staff would be surprised to hear you talk about you pacing the floor at night and noting, writing things down in the middle of the night and things? Do you think they'd be surprised? Do you think they understand? Do you think employees in general understand what being the owner of the business actually involves?
I think it's quite difficult for them to understand unless you are sharing all of your thoughts, because I'm always trying to keep a balance between of basically sharing the right amount of information, and I find that really hard to get right. When you're having an acute stress about cash flow or whatever, you don't necessarily want to share that because you don't want to worry people, and actually you kind of know the business is fine, it's just that you need to deal with this. So sometimes you think, well, it's not appropriate for me to share that. And then other times you think, actually, I kind of need a response. I kind of need some support, and I need people to know that actually now is the time that we just need to really go for it. And I kind of need you to know that I'm a bit stressed so that we're all in this together and we can strategize together. So that's what I find difficult. So I do try and share a bit of my concern so they'll know that I'm, a worrier and things. But I wouldn't, I certainly don't, if I've been up all night thinking, I wouldn't go into work and probably share all of that because I don't want to stress people out, and, I want them to feel comfortable and supported and all the rest of it. So I find that balance difficult, how much information to share.
One of the reasons why I like doing this podcast is because I think people like hearing other people who are in the same position talking about stuff like this. So, Liz, who do you talk to about this stuff? And obviously you have a business partner, so I'm sure you discuss this stuff between the two of you, or do you have discrete roles that never the twain shall cross? How does it work with you?
Oh, I think everyone in my life would wish that was the case, because I have to talk everything to Tess. I'm definitely a vocal processor. So me and Matt obviously have extensive talks, and sometimes he just needs to tell me to get my act together. I probably on occasion overshare with some of our staff, but that is trusted positions, and I know that they care as well. And I think when you do that, because they're not in the situation, they don't fully understand the level of the stress. So it's like, oh, okay, yeah, she didn't sleep last night because she was thinking about work. That happens, But it's like losing someone close to you, and until someone experiences that themselves, they don't really understand the level of stress and grief that puts on you. And I think that's the same even if you do share with your employees.
You do talk to Matt a lot. To have that partner there, that must be a problem halved as a problem solved.
It is, but sometimes it creates more problems because we're very different people and have very different approaches. So sometimes it just causes more friction and less solution finding, which it can add to the whole situation if we strongly disagree about something, because we have to be in agreement to move forward. But I have found over the last couple of years, making an effort to speak to other people in the industry and build those connections and thinking, I don't care, I'm just going to drop them a message and see if they'll give me half an hour and help, because they're probably going to know a bit more than me, is really useful. Even if I disagree with them, it's just good to know how other people have done it. And it is nice that I feel reasonably comfortable enough to do that, whereas 15 years ago, no chance would that have happened.
Who do you talk to about this stuff, Nick? Professionally, I mean, who do you talk to? Coach or peers? What do you do?
I mean, I've still got Stuart Warrington, the senior, to bounce stuff off now and again, although I don't like to burden him that much. And then the other thing that I have done over the last sort of 15 months is I joined a coaching group at the beginning of last year. And although we can't, and we're now on an every other week meeting, quite a small, tight group, 3 or 4 of us. And that for me is a really useful, what I consider like a safe space where you can kind of share your concerns and this is my problem. What do you think about it? And just hearing other people say, yeah, I've had that problem too, in itself can be helpful. And then sometimes people will just make suggestions and you go away from that feeling a bit more comfortable that, yeah, it's just one of those things that you've got to deal with and it's not the end of the world and it's not as big a problem as you've built it up to be. So for me, that works really well. That's really useful.
I mean, you are a networker, Trev. You know everybody and everyone knows you. Does that help? Do you talk about this stuff with people when you get together with them? Who do you talk to?
Well, I mean, I do talk to my partner. We talk quite a lot about her business and me about my business, our business. But the networking side of things, what really came out of COVID that was incredibly positive for the industry, probably the world, I can only talk about the bit that I understand and know, was that we all started talking to each other. We did so remotely via Zoom conferences and calls. And we suddenly found that our competition weren't our competition. They were just business colleagues. And that we all shared the same stresses and the same worries. A little bit like others have said, a problem shared is a problem halved. More often than not, the problems that we've had in our business, other people I know have already had that problem and have resolved it, and they could come back to you with a potential solution. And these mentoring groups that Nick has mentioned that he's part of, that we as a business are part of, and specifically that's. I mean, I'm purposefully not attending these meetings because I want to give Tom fresh air to work through his own experience as managing director without me overbearing the situation. And then, of course, we talk as well. We talk to each other. Now, of course, quite often that conversation is, you've just thrown me under another bus, Trevor, because my brain's whirring away at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm coming up with more crazy schemes. I'm punching it all out on emails and I present it to him as a fait accompli rather than as a discussion document. And that never goes down particularly well. And, yet again on air, I apologise for that, Tom. But that's the way that as a business owner, I think sometimes that's the way people's mind, your mind works. You just can't stop yourself and you're always thinking of something else to do. And it helps if you can bounce those ideas off other people, for sure. And I tend to bounce mine off of my partner.
Well, let's talk about that a bit. You're both business owners, therefore you can have that kind of professional conversation with. But is there a point where you go, right, that's it now, no more work tonight?
Absolutely, yeah. And for me, that usually involves switching the TV on and putting the blinkers on.
But it's good that you draw a line because you both understand where it comes from, I suppose. I mean, Steph, you run Pier 1 with your husband, don't you? So how does that work in terms of talking about your business stuff and being able to talk about that, but then being able to just draw a line under it and go and be mum and dad again or go and be husband and wife?
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out how that works. But obviously we have to talk about business stuff. And he's actually kind of like more on the outskirts. So we call him the ideas man because he comes in with the ideas and then very little implementation of those ideas. But it is useful. He's got a very good strategic brain. He's a problem solver. So if I'm really stressed, I will talk to him about it. And he also just randomly shows up if he's working from home or just pop into the showroom and start asking people difficult random questions. So he is quite an interesting character and he's good to have around, but we do have to stop those conversations at some point in the evening and just parent and try and have a marriage. But it is really difficult line to cross. to sort of manage. I usually talk to Rosie, our showroom manager. She's different personality type to me, and that's really helpful. So she's quite calm and, again, very practical. So she'll often translate my worries into some actions, which is very useful. And then I'm lucky also to have my brother-in-law. He has been in the bathroom industry for years, and he runs a very successful company up in London. And he's just a very calming influence. He's been through the ups and downs, and he usually just kind of brings me back down to earth and says, look, you know, you're going to come through this, try that. But ultimately, you'll come through it. Don't worry. So, yeah, I sort of go to different people depending on what the issue is. But it's difficult when you're married to the other director. That's all I'm going to say.
So if he's the ideas man, has he got a notebook next to his side of the bed as well? Are you waking up at different times in the night?
No, his ideas just come randomly at all times. And he manages stress very well. So he doesn't have any issues sleeping.
Your wife isn't involved in the business, is she, Nick?
No, she's got her own business, so she's got her own stack of problems to deal with.
So what do you do when you get home? Do you have do you talk about it? Sometimes you just want someone to give you a good listening to, don't you? Sometimes you just want someone to just nod and go, yeah, what a nightmare.
I have tried to change over the years because I am guilty, or have been, particularly in the past, of being an oversharer of what a bad day I've had, if I've had a bad day. And sometimes I just wanted to talk an issue through, and you know, you have to look at the eyes and see how quickly they glaze over to know when to stop the conversation. And sometimes that's within a couple of sentences if she has also had a fairly stressful day. So yeah, I try and not overshare. I'm not always successful. Sorry, Rachel. But I do try to not overshare my own issues when I get home, because I could talk about kitchens and small business for hours and hours, as she will acknowledge. And she would prefer when she's very good at when she does finally stop, she will close the laptop and she can then not think about things until the following day. So she's a good example that I need to follow, really.
What about you, Liz, when you get home? You said you overshare everything and you have to talk everything through. It's your partner just have is there a secret code word that you just say, be quiet now, Liz? How does it work?
No, she just gets on and does something else.
Just walks off.
And yeah, it zones out. And then I have to check who's listening because I was looking for an opinion or something. So I'm quite lucky in that we don't work together, but she is a finance director for a really similar business setup. So goes through the same kind of challenges that we do, which is really bizarre to see a business of 100 people going through the same issues that we are. And it's very consoling to see as well. So we'll bounce things off each other and figure out how to work through it and process. And she knows that if she shuts me up too early, then I'm just going to get too wound up. So it's better to let me get it out and then she can enjoy the rest of her evening.
All right, look, let's have a quick fire round. What is your biggest business worry right now? If you have to be number one, what would be number one?
It's got to be cash flow, where the next order's coming from. Are we doing enough churn to be here in 6 months' time?
All right, Steph, what about you?
Same, is cash flow. We are going through a period of growth with a lot of investments, looking to open our second shop. So I am spending a lot of money at the moment. So it's cash flow, top of the list for me.
Nick?
Pretty much the same. It's keeping those leads coming through the door and converting those leads into paying jobs.
Liz?
Exactly the same. I think, time, capacity, and the financial outlay of being able to relieve some of that is definitely an issue. Looking again to open our second showroom. Market isn't what it was 24 months ago. So, yeah, it's just a little bit more challenging and worrisome. But we know we'll get there.
All right, Trevor, what's the one idea that you just can't let go of that's just always niggling at the back of your brain?
I wish I'd chosen to run a scuba diving business rather than fitted kitchens.
Fair enough. There's always going to be water, isn't there? What about you, Steph? What's the one idea that you just can't let go of?
Well, it's always been this, do we open the second showroom or not? It's always been the niggly thing for us. And, is that the answer? That's the growth? Or is that the risk that's going to backfire? But we've sort of taken the plunge. And so, now I'm fully focused on that.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll come back to that in the future. Nick, what about you? What's the one thing?
I always have this niggling thought, and it's been here ever since I took over, about whether we would do better in larger premises, and that just swirls around in my head and sort of bubbles to the top every 3 months, and then I sort of bat it away and say that's not what's holding you back, and then it comes up again a few months later. But there's no answer to it. I just deal with it now.
Liz, I'm guessing for you it's probably second showroom as well by the sounds of it.
It is second showroom, but it's just, how do we become more known in the area? We're really well known, but we still regularly have so many people saying, "Oh, I never knew you'd been here. How long have you been here? Is it new?" And I'm stood there thinking, we've been going longer than rent. So that's the thought. How do we break that cycle?
All right, now Trevor, what is the one thing you worry about but never actually happens? Like, you needlessly worry about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, realistically, and absolutely seriously, I mean, it goes back to that first answer, which is cash flow. The thing I always worry about is that we run out of money before we've run out of bills to pay, and it never quite happens. We've got a fantastic bookkeeper. I know what our cash position is down to the penny on any given day, and forecast forward six or 7 weeks, because we know exactly what's coming in, we know exactly what's going out, we know exactly where the pinch points are going to be. And I applaud Michelle for the fantastic job she does, but it doesn't stop you stressing that you're going to run out of money, because although she's very good at what she does, she's also very good at pointing out that we're getting a bit short of cash when we are getting a bit short of cash, which means she's doing her job, but then I worry about it. So.
What is the thing that you don't worry about enough?
I think staff welfare, because I'm a bit divorced from it all now. I'm thinking of the thing more holistically, that's the word, than I perhaps ever did when I was sort of immersed massively in the business on a day-to-day operational basis. And I never really gave it much thought, staff welfare. And I think I need to give it more attention, learn more about it and do more about it.
Steph, what's the one thing you worry about that never actually happens, and what's the one thing you should worry about more?
Sorry, Trevor, but I agree with you. Cash flow, my constant worry, and touch a lot of wood. It always seems to sort itself out. So I'm not sure how to stop that little cycle, but there we go. I'm not sure if I need to do any more worrying, but probably worrying about my own health and well-being. Yeah, I think when you're running a small business, trying to parent and be a good wife and friend and all the rest of it, it gets a bit overwhelming. So probably trying to think about how I create a bit of time to stay on top of things myself.
Yeah, that's interesting. Nick, what about you? The one thing you worry about that never actually happens, and the one thing you should worry about more?
I think I'm in agreement with Steph and Trevor. Cash flow and jobs coming in. And I think that the more time you spend in the industry, the more you accept that, orders are a little bit like buses, where one hasn't come along for quite a while and then 3 come along all at once, and you just have to kind of roll with that and accept that you're not going to have this nice little steady stream. So yeah, that is always a constant worry. Feels like you're a bit on a hamster wheel. The thing that I should worry about more, I think I've started to do that, and that's to just have a little bit more strategic vision about the business, rather than sort of just bobbling along happily and not thinking about far enough down the line. I'm trying to be more proactive in the way that the business is managed, and so that's the thing that I am actually spending more time thinking about than perhaps I was doing 2 or 3 years ago.
Liz, the one thing you worry about that never happens, and the one thing you should worry about more?
I would say losing reputation, which is subsequently cash flow issues, and definitely the thing that I should be putting more effort into is my own welfare and balance, not just for me, but for everyone around me.
Yeah, and I think if there is a conclusion from this conversation, it's probably that. Actually, you should think as much about yourself as you do about the business that you're stressing about, otherwise you'll give yourself a horrible heart attack. Look, this has been really good. I'm really glad we did this one, because I think there'll be a lot of people listening to this, be ringing so many bells in them, and maybe if it just encourages 1 or 2 people to talk to somebody about what's stressing them out, it might actually help. So look, thank you so much. Thank you for letting me bring you all down this awful time of the morning, and I will see you all next week.
See ya.
Night.
Thanks. See you later. Bye.
Right, yeah.
I guess you sleep now.